Good morning, everyone. My name is Fahmi from S1 Banjarnegara, and today I'm participating in the STC 2026 as the proposition. And today's debate motion is: this House prefers a world where critical resources are governed by the International Materials Agency, or IMA. But first of all, I would like to define the definition of today's motion. So, the critical resources are essential materials needed to build up modern economies, industrial production, technological development, and many others. This includes oil, natural gases, lithium, cobalt, uranium, and other high-value industrial materials. While the governed by the IMA refers to a global international institutions that are responsible for coordinates the extraction of materials, the distribution, the trade, and conservation, and also limiting the usage of materials. The agency does not necessarily fully own all of the resources, but they have the right and responsibility to reduce the monopolies, stabilize the supply chains, avoid threat conflicts, and many others. It is similar to some international organizations that coordinates the nuclear safety and public health, such as International Atomic Energy Agency or World Health Organization. This motion argues whether the world will be better if the critical resources such as oil, gas, and rare earth minerals were coordinated under an international organization rather than being managed fully by each country. In standing as the proposition, we stand that the current system is chaotic, unequal, and dangerous, which is the system where countries individually manage their critical resources. An international agency will create stability, fairness, and sustainability. And today, I will bring three major arguments. The first one is the international agency could prevent geopolitical conflict and economical instability. And the second argument, it will create a fairer global access to critical resources. And the third is, it will ensure sustainable and responsible resource management for future generations. Now, let's move into the first argument. Ladies and gentlemen, nowadays, critical resources are no longer just economic commodities. They are geopolitical weapons. Throughout history, nations have used to control oil, gas, and minerals to pressure rivalry, manipulate market, and strengthen political domination. And this resource competition has built international tensions through full sanctions, trade wars, proxy wars, and many others. And under the current system, powerful countries can monopolize their resources while weaker nations become dependent and vulnerable. For example, countries that rich in critical resources can restrict their export rates, and then oil-producing countries can manipulate supply to influence the global prices, and then countries will compete over mining rights in developing regions. All of these things will create instability for the entire world economy. And now, compare it with our model. An IMA stands as a neutral coordinating body that it will provide measured distribution mechanism, coordinated production policies, so that all of the possible conflicts can be prevented. The opposition maybe will say that it does not make sense because we have already international bodies that manage global concerns such as the International Atomic Energy Agency for nuclear or World Health Organization for health coordination, or even international climate agreements. If nuclear energy requires the global oversight because it can affect everyone, then of course the resource that powers the global economy deserves the same treatment. Under our world, the countries that are vulnerable will be easier to get resources because they can access, and the access has stabilized collectively by the IMA through their policies. The second argument, in today's world, access to critical resources is very unequal. There is only a small number of countries that possess the majority of critical resources, while many developing countries depend on import. This creates inequality because for countries that is weak, they will be vulnerable to exploitation pricing and then supply insecurity and political dependency to other major countries. As a result, developing countries are trapped because they either cannot access resources affordably or they become to be victim of exploitation. So the opposition may also say countries should control their own resources because it is their sovereign right. But sovereignty internationally means little when other weaker countries are economically exploited by stronger countries. The IMA will create rules that prioritize global fairness over geopolitical advantages. It means that it will create a fairer access that will reduce the monopolies and give protections from exploitation. And now let us be real. Resources right now is not a luxurious thing. There are things that determine whether some countries can build infrastructure, develop green technology, or even lifting people from poverty. Without fair access, the global inequality will become permanent. So the third argument, our final argument, perhaps maybe the most important, because the current resource system rewards short-term profit over a long-term survival. Countries and corporations try to extract resources as much as possible because they fear losing competitive advantages. And this will create environmental destructions over extractions, unsafe mining practices, and unstable consumption and unsustainable consumption. For this reason, they will destroy the water system, destroy the forest, and then indigenous people are displaced and carbon emission will always be rising. Why? Because under competition-based systems, every country will prioritize their profit without even carrying the ecological impact. And all of these things need to be controlled internationally and to prevent environmental issues. And IMA can establish these things because they will create an environmental extraction standard, international monitoring, and sustainable quotas. The exploitation will be reduced. So, as the closing statement from us, the status quo creates a conflict, inequality, instability, and environmental destruction, while our world offers cooperation instead of competition, fairness instead of monopolization, and sustainability instead of massive exploitation. Because critical resources affect every people and every future generation. Therefore, they should not be controlled solely by whoever who has or possess the most territory, the most materials or military influence. For all of these reasons, this House proudly prefers a world where critical resources are governed by the IMA. Thanks for today.